What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Golden Grove Woodworks. And I know it's been a little while since we've done a video. Girlfriend and I purchased a house. A lot has been going on recently. But today we're going to jump into making a countertop for an island. Top is going to be 5 foot with a 1.5 inch overhang on each side. So I just measured this out to 6 foot. These are 12 foot long 2x6s. And that's going to give me 72 inches, which is plenty to work with. I'm only going to need 63. So I basically just marked one, and I'm going to go ahead quick and cut these up. Okay guys, so I'm going to go ahead and rip these down on the table saw now. We are looking for a total of 37.5 inches. So with the boards that I had, I'm going to have to rip them down to 5.25 inches each. I'm going to rip a little bit off of each edge to make both of them, square so they meet up nice and tight. And that's going to give us a 1 foot overhang for the stools on one side of the island and a 1 inch overhang on the other side to match our existing countertops. So let's go ahead and rip these down. Alright guys, now we are going to set this to, gotta move my tape. Now we're going to set this to 5.25. About there. And now we're going to rip them all one more time. Okay guys, now that we have all those cut, or ripped down I should say, I'm going to go through and I'm going to square all of these ends up, and then I'm going to do my measurements and I'm going to cut them to length. Make sure, depending on, I have some room on these, but sometimes they put staples on the end of these boards, so make sure you pull out the staples prior to cutting. Alright guys, now that we have these ripped and we have them squared on the ends, I'm going to go ahead and take a measurement. So the counter width is going to be, or the cabinet width is 5 feet, so 60 inches, and typical is about 1.5 inch overhang on each side. So I'm going to cut them all to 63 inches, and then when I center the countertop, I'm going to have 1.5 inch overhang on each end. So we'll go ahead and take those measurements and cut that down. Alright guys, so I missed quite a bit here, sorry about that. So I ended up screwing all these together. I just put glue in between all of them and I pocket hole screwed them, just alternating back and forth. It's kind of just a quick visual on the bottom of how I did it. There was no rhyme or reason to it, but it held it together really tightly. And here is the Craig jig that I used. I basically just went ahead and um, set the boards in there, and then here's the drill bit that I used. And then, like I said, I just alternated the pattern back and forth, and the tabletop is now black. I just used a base, cheapest paint from Lowe's and put 2 coats of black paint on it. So as you can see, guys, didn't come out too bad. This is just a seal coat. I will be doing a flood coat tomorrow. So with this, I basically just used this super clear here. And you can see I didn't use a whole bunch. The mixture of this was, it's a 5-foot by 3-foot table. A little bit extra inches in there. It's 62 by 37.5 to be exact, or 7.5 for overhangs. But so I ended up using, it was about 16 square feet, and the video I found was 1 ounce per square foot. So it is 1 ounce per square foot total. So it would be 8 ounces of part A, 8 ounces of part B. It's not 16 ounces of each part. So I ended up mixing that up in just a little, container I got at Lowe's, a little mixing spoon here, mixed it for about 5 minutes. Didn't go crazy fast. I didn't want to form too many bubbles. But this is just off Amazon, and it was like $60. It came out, pretty well, and I'm going to be using that tomorrow as well for the clear coat or the flood coat. But basically what I did, I just started and after I was done mixing, I just poured a straight line through the center of it. And then I just used this $1.50 squeegee. It's just a putty knife from Lowe's. And then I basically worked it out and through the whole thing, worked it around the edges. To clean up my drips, I used one of these little 60-cent sponges. And then I basically just ran that along the edge and, kept doing that until the drips are pretty much gone. Tomorrow when I do a flood coat, when there's going to be a lot more epoxy, I'm going to end up taping with the packing tape, the clear packing tape along the edges on the bottom. I saw that was a lot easier on some videos. That basically, you can just basically peel the tape off, and then you don't have to worry about the hassle of sanding everything. So once everything's basically spread out, it levels for the most part. There's a couple high, right, that you guys can't really see in this video, but there's a couple areas that are high and some of that are low. I'm hoping tomorrow with a flood coat that's going to correct itself. And then basically after, I just took this torch, and there was a lot of little bubbles in this. You basically just take it and you just run it along wherever. You can tell where the bubbles are. I mean, if you paint it like red, and you see like white specks in it, then those are bubbles. They're like really, really, really like microscopic bubbles, but they do come out. So because there's a lot through here, like it would look like kind of like I ran like almost white paint or like silver paint in this. But that will take it out. I gave it probably about 5 minutes of dry time before I started removing bubbles, and then I waited another like 5 minutes and then did it again. Don't get too close. You will heat up too much. I'm assuming can burn this stuff. I'm not entirely sure, but I did have it like smoking at one point, so I don't think that's the best way to do it. But it did come out. It was like, I don't know, it was probably that spot right there. So yeah, don't do that. But tomorrow I will be doing the flood coat. And if you guys, like I said, want to see anything on the Craig jig, or you want to see another one of these pours, I'm probably gonna have some left over. If you want to see me put on a clear coat or seal coat, then just let me know in the comments, and I'd be happy to make one of those videos. Alright guys, so it's the next morning, and as you can see, the table is pretty much how we left it last night with the seal coat. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this tape, like I said, to the bottom. It's just a clear packaging tape, and I'm gonna put this on, and then I'm gonna still wait, and then I'm gonna give it a good probably 24 hours to cure, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put the seal or the flood coat on. And now it is flood coat time. So I let this cure for about 24 hours. I'm gonna have to do a light sanding on this. I'm just gonna scuff the surface and then I'm going to do a flood coat. So we'll jump into the sanding now and hopefully all goes well. All right guys, 320 grit sandpaper is what I'm gonna be using here. Recommendation is like 220. I'm gonna err on the side of caution because all I have is 320. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into sanding this and hopefully it doesn't come out too bad. So now as you can see, it is roughed up. I'm hoping, looks like I just ruined it. I am hoping that this comes out. It should, from what they say. I am going to apply a quick mineral spirits. I will show you that. It's the same one I used in my polyurethane video, because that is all I have lying around. So I will apply that and hopefully this is basically just to scuff the surface, make some grooves quick, and that'll help adhere the poly. When I looked it up online, directions didn't say much that I got with the kit, but online it said if you're going to apply a second coat, I don't know if that was referring to a seal coat or a flood coat, but if you're going to apply a second coat, you want to do it about 4 hours in when it's tacky, no more than 10 hours. And when I read that, it had been 12 hours. So I was past it, so I had to sand it. So this should all pretty much come out. It's just going to create a bunch of fine grooves, like I said, and that's going to help the next coat of epoxy adhere better. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that now, and then we will do the flood coat. Okay guys, so that paint thinner took off a good amount of the excess dust that was left on from the sanding. And I mean, you could sand it again. There's not really too much of a need. That 320 did plenty. Um, but so this is the epoxy that was used. It is a tabletop epoxy. You can see I didn't use too much of it. There's my drink. And I did put this in warm water so it would flow easier. I'll show you here. It's pretty runny. Just to make sure the flood coat is actually going to cover the whole entire table. I did the seal coat before when I didn't put it in the warm water, and it actually didn't flow too well. So the warm water seems to help it quite a bit. Okay guys, so I just mixed part A first, and I was measuring it out at 32 ounces to make sure I covered the whole entire table. I'm not sure if part A or part B is supposed to be mixed first, but to me it didn't really matter in this instance. It came out pretty decent. So you can see I just measured both of them out. I was a little over on the 32, so I just went a little bit, over on the 64. And this was enough. It did cover sufficient. Um, and also, this was a 1-to-1 ratio mix. Um, and then you can see it's sped up in the video, but I'm actually stirring this quite slowly. And I stirred it for about, I don't know, I would say a good 5 to 10 minutes to make sure everything was pretty well mixed together. Okay guys, no rhyme or reason here. I'm pretty much just starting in the center, as you can see, and I'm just gonna pour it around in some swirls. This table is level, but it's not enough epoxy to cover the whole entire thing without spreading it. So I mean, if I probably mixed up double the amount, I probably could have just let it sit and it would have spread over the edges. But I just wanted to make sure that I covered the whole entire thing. So I did end up using a putty knife, and I went ahead and spread it out. All right, so here I am just spreading it out with the putty knife. Um, Pretty much anything that the putty knife leaves the high and low spots. It will self-level in that aspect, um, but you pretty much just want to make sure you get enough to run over the edges, and you're filling any of the knots if you didn't already fill those with the caulking or anything before. But yeah, I just pretty much went around and spread everything out with a putty knife, and we will see how it comes out. All right, as you can see, it came out pretty level. There's a little bit of a low spot right in there, but it came out with a pretty glossy finish, and you can see the air bubbles through it. I went down in the basement, grabbed this little brush, and I'm just going to take this and basically wipe it along the edges to get any of the drips off. Do that for about, I don't know, a good 10 to 15 minutes. You just pretty much walk around and you'll find more every time you come to a new corner. But then we will jump into taking the air bubbles out with the torch. Okay guys, so I went through and I did one more wipe right around the edges, and then I took the torch and ran it around again. I waited, I don't know, whatever it takes to make a mixed drink amount of time to do the torching. Let's say whatever, 5 minutes after I put the coat on. I'm still getting a couple bubbles that are coming up. You probably can't see them too much on this camera, but I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how it's coming out. I mean, tomorrow will be the true teller of time, but I mean, for the most part, it's looking like it's kind of just a black top. I was kind of worried. You can see this crack right here I had in the wood, a couple of them right there. I'm not sure how that was going to fill. Seems like it filled all right. Seems like most of the epoxy is leveling. But yeah, so I'm pretty happy how it's turned out so far. I'm going to do one more torching, maybe 20 more times wiping the sides. And then after that, I'm just going to let it sit for probably about a month. No, I'm just kidding. Probably about whatever, 24, 48 hours, I'm going to let it sit. So guys, as you can see here, this is probably about, I don't know, a good, I'd say about a good 2 weeks of use. And, it's holding up really well. A little bit dirty right now, but for the most part, I mean, it's pretty much like a mirror image. As you can see, it's pretty wild. I'm really excited with how it turned out. It's extremely durable, holds up very well. But yeah, this was basically the island that I was talking about, recessed in here for the dog dishes, and still a couple finishing touches to do. But for the sides here, as you can see, it didn't completely run over enough on the edges. So if you're gonna do this, just watch out for that. You know, some parts are a little bit thicker than others. And the tape was kind of useless, I guess, to a point. It stopped a good amount of the drips, but there are still some of them. And someday I might take it off and sand it down, but because it's for our personal use, I wasn't too worried about it. But yeah, I would say if you're looking at doing an epoxy pour, they're really not too difficult. This was the first one I did, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. So until next time, guys, please like and subscribe, and take care.